It is roasting in here. I finally had to turn my air conditioning on, which is a great feeling because the heat can finally go off. But oh my gosh, it is like toasty. So today I have a video that was once again a trend going around on Instagram. I want to say, I don't even know how long ago, maybe like a month or two ago, but it was people posting the first books that they've read from their favorite authors and their favorite books that they've read from their favorite authors. And once again, because I'm a wordy bitch, I like to talk, I figured let me make a video of it, and because I do kind of keep my Instagram now just for my own books. So I wanted to do this in a full video format. So I tried to pick authors that are A, favorites, but also B, ones that I've read like quite a few of their books from. So even like some newer authors like that I've read and recently really started enjoying, I really wanted to do ones that I truly have read quite a few of their books. So without further ado, there's no rhyme or reason to any order that I have these in, but we're gonna go ahead and jump in. So first up, Sarah Kate. I have read, I don't even know how many Sarah Kate books at this point. I think I've read at least over half of her backlist, but my very first one that started it all for me was Praise, which is the first book in the Salacious Players Club series. This one is an ex's dad, BDSM, spicy club romance. I absolutely loved this book. It really kicked off my love for her writing. I know this is a lot of people's favorite. This is a tried and true trope that like I just will forever and always eat up. But my favorite of hers ended up being Mercy, which is the fourth book in the Salacious Players Club series. And this is actually the son that this one, like he is the ex from this book, which in this book, I'm like, Bo, you kind of suck. But seeing him truly like come into his own in this book blew me away. This one is an older woman, younger man age gap, again around the spicy club, and it's kind of like Bo's redemption story a little bit. I love this. This is a god tier book from me. I love so many of Sarah Kate's books, but truly the Salacious Players Club series is just a favorite series of mine of all time, but really Bo and Maggie are where it's at. Also, I'm not really going to get in heavy with the synopses of these because I truly have a lot of books here, and like I'm not really necessarily doing like rec style where I'm like laying out the entire story for you, but most of these books, actually all of these books, I've already talked on at length on my channel before. We're gonna keep it a little like more of an overview. Next up, another absolute favorite author of mine that I have read almost her entire backlist. I just have not read her original series, and then King of Sloth, which is her newest release, and that is Anna Huang. So my first book that I ever read from her was Twisted Love. This was a top book of mine back in 2021. I was utterly obsessed with this book. It's a brother's best friend, grumpy sunshine, billionaire romance. Alex is the blueprint for me of cold, icy rage, billionaire men, and I love him with my entire heart and soul. I've even done a reread on this book and it's still held up for me. I just absolutely love the two of them, and I honestly thought that this one was not going to get beat in the series. That is until Twisted Hate entered the chat, and I was blown away by this book. Again, I did a reread of it recently, and it still is my favorite Anna Huang book. One of my favorite enemies to lovers books ever. Enemies with benefits is a trope that I never knew that I really needed until I read this one. And this one follows Josh and Jules. So Josh is the older brother of Ava in this one, and they truly hate each other so much. But then when they kind of start a little bit of an arrangement together to kind of help the two of them just, you know, work off some stress that they have from their everyday lives, they start to maybe see that there's more beneath the hate. And I just love this thin line between love and hate, and that's what just like works for me in these circumstances. So yes, these two are still two of my all-time favorites. I've never actually given an Anna Huang book less than 4 stars. I have loved every single one of her books that I've ever read. Even ones like King of Wrath is by far my least favorite so far. I still enjoyed that book. I truly like Anna Huang can do no wrong in my book, and I'm so excited to read King of Sloth. I actually just bought it, and I think that's going to be my next book that I pick up. Next up, I'm honestly still not quite sure about this one. So Fiona Cole, one of my favorite authors. Again, I have read all of her backlist except for 2 books. I read Deny Me. The other 2 in that series are not on, or they were not on Kindle Unlimited. And honestly, I read the first one and it wasn't my favorite, but I have read every single other book that she has ever written. I love her books so much. But the one that kicked it all off for me was Voyeur, which is the first book in I think this is the Voyeur series. And this one is another spicy club, but this one is a professor-student romance. But it's so much more than that. This one is very emotional. It's very heavy. Definitely check your triggers triggers going into it. And honestly, here's the thing. I have like 3 Fiona Cole books that I all love pretty equally, this being one of them. But then for the sake of the video, there were certain other authors where it's like the first was just my all-time favorite and like there's no arguments to be made. So I wanted to like really try to make myself pick. So since I like 3 of hers pretty much equally, I wanted to pick another one, and that is another. And this might come as a big surprise to you guys because this one is an accidental pregnancy one, but this one works, okay? Because I love Karina, the heroine in this one. So this is the 4th book in the Voyeur series, and you actually see Karina in book 2. Book 2 is an MMF, but then it just turns into MM by the end, and Karina is, you know, left out of the equation, and then this is her happy ending. Oh my god, Karina and Ian are so good together. I was obsessed with this man and how much he wanted to be there for her, and she is an incredibly strong heroine. She has been hurt before, and she's like not very willing to open up her heart to this like kind of playboy kind of dude a little bit, and just how Ian just proves himself to her time and time again and just wanting to be there for her. And seeing her open up again, it's so good. So even though I love Voyeur, I love Oakland and Callum so much, and also Blame It on the Tequila is my other one that like I almost put in here. Truly though, another just was like calling to me last night when I was making this list. So I'm sticking with another, but like I said, I pretty much love these equally. Well, y'all know QB had to be here because I have literally read everything that woman has published, and I will read everything that woman ever publishes because I love QB Tyler's books so freaking much. And once again, it all started for me with a student teacher first semester. So this is the first book in her Campus Tales series, and I have never looked back. So this one is a professor student, a quick novella. So our heroine in this one, she's kind of looking for a rebound after she gets out of a relationship. She ends up hooking up with this one guy off of a dating app, and then she shows up to class, and who is her new professor but the guy from her one night stand. So this was a great start for me, still one of my favorites from QB to this day. However, we're not surprised that my favorite has always been You, which I had to pull off the dark and quirky version of it that I worked on with them for the booktube box. This was my pick for the box. We're not surprised that this is my favorite. This one is also a shorter one. It's like about 250 pages, and this one follows James and Gabrielle, and it is a taboo, age gap, adopted siblings romance. Everything about these two is my favorite. Okay, listen, the spice is spicy, the connection is great, the sneaking around is amazing. I haven't met a QB book that I don't like. Even my least favorite of hers, like Spring Semester, I still really enjoyed. It's just like when you love them all, you have favorites and you have least favorites. I mean, still, this is still a favorite, but Always Been You is just that bitch, okay? It's just that bitch. Next up, Harley Laroo. Again, another author that I have read everything that they have published except for the last Souls book because I'm not ready to be caught up on their backlist yet, quite frankly, so I keep like putting it off. But so I actually thought Her Soul Was Revenge was the first book that I had ever read from Harley Laroo. And then I looked back at my reading journal, and it was in fact The Dare, which is the novella that precursors the Losers duet. I read this back for one of my Banned, Forbidden, and Taboo reading vlogs, actually. I loved doing those. Those used to be like a staple on my channel. I'd still like to do another one again. I just like haven't been in the mood to really do vlogs lately. But The Dare is where it all started. This is a really short and quick and hot novella following Manson and Jessica. This one follows the very popular high school cheerleader who is returning home over when they're away in college for a Halloween party, and she ends up seeing the guy that she used to bully there who was a loser, Manson, and they had a little moment previously, and she's really intrigued by him, but she hates herself for it, and he loves watching her squirm. Listen, I love this. I reread it recently and it still stands up. And there is no surprise that then my favorite book. So Her Soul to Take was my favorite for a while until I finished the Losers duet, Losers Part 2. The found family in this truly is one of my favorite found families I've ever read in a book. Probably my favorite found family actually in romance, period. The dynamics between all 5 of these characters is just incredible. It's a poly romance, again, so following the characters from this. But this focuses mostly on Jessica and Manson, where this one has then Vincent, Jason, and Lucas all involved too. I really enjoyed Part 1 of the duet, but Part 2 is just where it's at for me. All of like the healing and growth and love that these characters have between each other is just amazing. And especially like I love the dynamics between like Manson and Lucas and Jason. Like I'm obsessed with all these characters. I've talked about this book so much. It was a top book of last year for me. Yeah, I will read anything Harley publishes. Hair does not want to stay clipped back today. My hair is actually just not having it. It's clean, and I don't like when my hair is like the first day. My hair is the best on the day. Like tomorrow, I'll have a good hair day because it'll be a little dirty, so it has a little like grip to it, where today it's clean and it's just like, ugh, it's driving me crazy. I know that I said these are in no particular order, but how have I not talked about Pen yet? Penelope Douglas, my favorite author of all time. So, fun fact, this was actually the first ever indie romance I ever read, and I have never looked back. And that is Birthday Girl. Okay, I was too lazy to grab underneath the stack my like regular version of Birthday Girl, so this is the darkly bookish box one or whatever. Listen, this one might still be my favorite from Pen. I have not done a reread on it since though, so I've been wanting to, and I think I actually will over this summer, and then I'll know if this is still my favorite. But this one is an ex's dad, age gap, slow burn, taboo, forced proximity romance. Listen, Pike can get it. I am not normally into like a blue collar type hero, but in this one, like I ate him up. Their connection was amazing, and just seeing them like truly try to like fight their attraction, but just knowing that they're like so perfect for each other. It's just like, I still remember reading this for the first time and being like so obsessed. But my favorite, so truly, again, I'm gonna kind of cheat. I have 3 that I just love equally, okay, because I still think Birthday Girl is a favorite, but like I said, since I haven't reread it, I don't for sure know, so Hideaway or Kill Switch, don't make me pick, okay? Don't make me pick. I know I'm supposed to, but I quite literally love these 2 books equally because I love Kai and Banks. They are my favorite couple, but I love Damon and Winter's story. So I truly don't know what to pick. These are books 2 and 3 in the Devil's Night series. This one is a brother's best friend, kind of like hate to love, and this one is a sister's fiance. Would you call it second chance? Again, kind of hate to love. Oh, I love the Devil's Night series so much. I feel like I've already talked about it so much, so I'm not really going to get into it, but truly these 2 books remain unmatched. And along with Birthday Girl, just, yeah. Similar with like QB, and Anna Huang, I have never read a Penelope Douglas book that I have given less than 4 stars. I truly love every single one of their books, and I could make an argument for probably like 7 of their books to be my favorite. Next up, let's go with Moira Smeltzer. Sweet Dandelion, again, an all-time favorite back in 2020, and one that I am planning on doing a reread of soon and just seeing like if it still hits this second time around and all these years later. This one is an emotional guidance counselor student age gap forbidden romance, and it's a standalone. It's a thick boy, but it is a standalone, and this was the first book that I read from Moira Smeltzer, and this is also still my favorite book that I have read from Moira Smeltzer. I think I've read maybe like 7 or 8 of her books, and this one just remains unmatched to me. Truly, the mental health representation is one of my all-time favorites. The slow burn between Danny and Lachlan is amazing. They truly fight it. One of my problems that I've had with a lot of like forbidden romances, like new releases lately, is that I feel like the characters don't fight it anymore. Like people just like have a short attention span and just want to get into it. Where this one makes you work for it. They fight it. They know what they're doing isn't right, but yet just like they can't help the connection that builds between the 2 of them. It's an all-time favorite of mine, and I don't think Moira Smeltzer will ever write anything that I love more than these 2. Like truly, I started off with a bang, and I think it's just gonna always be that one. Oh, okay, I almost didn't include Lucia in here because I have read more of her books. Like I've read some of her standalones. I haven't read her entire backlist. There are 2 that I haven't read yet. But I mean, since they're in the same series, I was like, do I want to do that? And they follow the same couple, but screw it, I'm doing it anyways. Balance by Lua Franco was the first book that I ever read from her. And if you've been here before, then you know. This is my all-time favorite romance series. I will never love another romance series more than I love this one. I will probably never love a romance couple as much as I love these 2. This is a taboo age gap forbidden romance between a coach and an athlete. Rhea has dreams of going to the Olympics, and Kova is going to be the coach that will take her there. It spans over 5 books. It's so messy. It's so toxic. It's so back and forth, but these 2 are the epitome of soulmates to me, and they just understand each other on a level that no one else does. And so this was the first book that I read from her, but my favorite is Twist, which is book 4. So I can't say anything about this book, obviously, because it follows the same couple, follows that whole journey, but truly If you've read this book, you just know there is so much obviously that has happened between these two by the time that we reach this point in twist. I can't even get into it. I have read this series, I think, have I read it 3 or 4 times all the way through now? This is like a different copy. I have a tabbed copy. I love these books with my entire heart and soul, and there will never be anything that will top these to me. Let's go back to some more like OGs, which is Beth Celest. So I remember I was like, I'm gonna get caught up on Beth Celest backlist, and then I have fallen very far behind, but I think I have read maybe like 6 or 7 of her books. So I think about half of her backlist maybe, but it all started with The Truth About Heartbreak, which this one is a brother's best friend cheating romance. And this was actually, I think, her first book that she ever published. I still adore this book. However, Truth About Tomorrow is my favorite. It is a duet. You could jump into this one without reading this one. However, I do think it just kind of gives you more of like the forbiddenness of this one if you read this one, because this one is an age gap guardian ward romance kind of connected with this one. Listen, I remember when I read this and being like, oh my God, because they should not be together. They really shouldn't. And yet I was like, I can't fathom these two being apart. Again, this is another one that I want to do a reread of. Even in all the other books, like Underneath the Sycamore Tree, I love. Like there are other Beth Celest books that I really, really love, but Truth About Tomorrow remains supreme for me. Okay, my hair was actually driving me crazy because it kept on falling out of the clip that I had it in. So although now I feel very exposed, but I quite literally can't take it on my neck anymore. I have a thing with hair and like the texture of it when it's like touching my bare skin, and I quite literally couldn't take it anymore. So it's going up for the rest of the video. If you've watched me for a while, you're probably like, where is Miss Cori Riley? Got you right here. So my first ever book that I read by Cori Riley was Bound by Honor. I want to say, did I read this back in 2019 or 2020? Does it have, when was this published? Okay, it was published back in 2014. I want to say I read this one back in end of 2019 or maybe very early 2020. It was my first ever mafia book that I have ever read, and I have never looked back since. I have read every single Camorra Chronicle / Born in Blood Chronicle / Sins of the Fathers, except for her newest release that just came out, book that Cori Riley has, because I am obsessed with her mafia universes that she has created. And this one all started with Bound by Honor. It is an arranged marriage, very like old school kind of mafia vibes. And this one is between the head of the New York mafia and the daughter, like a mafia princess of the Chicago mafia, to try to like make peace between the two. Listen, Luca, forever and always a top mafia man, okay? Him crushing a man's throat with his bare hand. Listen, Aria, you were lucky, girl. Twisted Pride, though, is my favorite of them all. Again, I could have argued that there are maybe like 5 Cori Riley books that could be my favorites, but Twisted Pride truly remains supreme for me. This one then is the Camorra Chronicles, which kind of interconnects. I have an entire guide to Cori Riley, so it's always kind of confusing when I'm talking about her, but this one is out in the Las Vegas Mafia, and it is a captor-captive romance between the head of the Las Vegas Mafia and another mafia princess of Chicago that he kidnaps her on her wedding day. Listen, I love these mafia books. They're forever and always my favorite. Even the Second Generation series I've really been enjoying. And fun fact, actually, the 2 couples of these, their son and their daughter actually have a book together for the spin-off series. So, you know, I love them. I'll never get tired of this mafia world. Okay, so a newer author that I just started reading last year, which actually I know that this is her pen name, and I know that she has another name that she publishes under, but that is Elly Hart. And the first ever book that I read from her was Unfurl, which is book 1 in the Alchemy series. And this is again a spicy club romance series following various characters. I have read all of them. The 5th book is actually getting ready to come out in this month, and I'm definitely gonna be picking it up. I'm very excited for it, but I love this entire series, and these are the only things that she's published under Elly Hart, but I will read anything that she wants to write out under this pen name. And my favorite, though, still remains Unfurl. This was the first one, and it is still my favorite. Even though I love the rest of the Alchemy series, Unfurl is just special. So this one is an age gap neighbor spicy club romance. Our heroine in this one, she was raised very religious and in a very like religiously oppressive household, and now as an adult, and now that she's like got a job, she's graduated school, she's working at this art gallery, she really wants to finally kind of explore herself, and she finds this program called Unfurl at this alchemy club, and their her hot neighbor is actually an owner, and when he finds out that she has applied for that, he's like, yeah, I'm running her program. I love this one. This dives really into like religion and just kind of discussions of that and like purity culture and everything. I love this book. It is my favorite. Honestly, it would be really hard for Elly Hart to top this one for me. Janna Darling. So I have read a good chunk of her backlist. I have not read all of it though. But the first book that I ever read, once again, you'll notice a theme. I get introduced to a lot of authors through student teacher books because those are my favorites. And Lessons in Corruption. It's the first book in her Fallen Men series, and this one is a student teacher romance, except she is the teacher, he is the student, and the hero in this one, he is a part of a motorcycle club. And Cress has recently gone through a divorce. She's a teacher, and she kind of instantly falls for her student when she sees him outside of school, and then he happens to be a student. Anyways, I still really love this. I think it's a great starting point for the series. I have reread it, and I actually enjoyed it more on the reread. However, my favorite from Janna Darling, which again, I don't really see it getting passed up, is Inked in Lies. This one is the 5th book in the Fallen Men series. This one follows Nova and Lila, and it is a brother's best friend. It's emotional. It's not really second chance. No. I don't even know how I would just like, how can you even sum up, I feel like, their romance in words? Honestly, I don't even know. I just truly loved this one. I think Janna Darling's writing really shined in this book specifically, just with like, she's very lyrical, she's very poetic, she's very wordy, and I feel like this is one of her books that she's fallen the most into that, because I think their like poetic lyricism love kind of like works with that. I don't know. I feel like that just made me sound corny. It's amazing. My favorite from her, and I don't really see it getting surpassed, even though Danner and Harley Rose are a close second. Nova and Lila, they do reign supreme. Next up, another author that I've read good chunk of her backlist, but I have fallen behind in recent years, is Saffron Kent. The Unrequited was the first ever book that I read from her. Again, another one back in 2020 that again was a top read of mine back then. This one is a professor-student stalker romance, except our heroine is the stalker. And this one, she is pretty obsessed with her new professor, Thomas. Ends up being their romance. And my favorite, even though I have another one that I love almost as equally as much as The Unrequited, my favorite is still The Unrequited. I just love it. It's one of my all-time favorite student-teacher romances. Layla is either a heroine you're going to like or you aren't going to like. I feel like there's not going to be very many people that are ever neutral on her. Personally, I love her. She saw a man that she wanted and she went after it. Is she a little crazy? Yeah, but you know what? I respect it. And I just love this book. Again, it's another one that I think I'm planning on doing a reread on because I just love. And again, one of my all-time favorite covers as well. I think this cover is still absolutely beautiful. Okay, next up, Sophie Lark. So she has a huge backlist, and I have not read anywhere close to her whole backlist, but I have read quite a few of her mafia books. And the first one that started it all was Brutal Prince. This is the first book in her Brutal Birthright series. This one is an arranged marriage between two rivaling families, and they hate each other. It is very strong enemies to lovers vibes. So strong that she literally tries to poison him on their wedding day, but he does survive. And they end up being together. So this one is a great start to the series. I loved this one. I gave this one 5 stars when I read it. However, my favorite, the one that reigns supreme, is Savage Lover, y'all. This one is so good. It's the 3rd book in the Brutal Birthright series. So many people hate this one, and I do not get it, and I do not care. They are my favorite. Nero and Camille, truly to me, are just that it couple, okay? And maybe it is because it does kind of give Fast and Furious Dom and Letty energy. Maybe that is it, because Dom and Letty are one of my all-time favorite movie couples, and Fast and Furious is one of my favorite franchises. So maybe that's why I love it. It is the 3rd book, so it's in this mafia world. I will say this one is probably the lightest mafia one out of the entire Brutal Birthright series. For me, I don't mind that because you do get the car racing, and there is a heist operation in this one, which I think is fun. But I am just always a sucker for the playboy who turns just for the one girl, and that is Nero to a T. He is such a fuckboy, but then when he finally starts getting connected to Camille and realizing that he has feelings for her, the way that then he turns to be so down bad for her, obsessed. He's also so hot. Like, genuinely, you know how sometimes you just read a book and you're just like, if that was a man in real life, I'd never be able to attain, but I would sure be like obsessed with. That's Nero right here for me. One of my types. Anyways, love these Love Sophie Lark's book. So love Sophie Lark's books. So I went back and forth on including Krista and Becca Ritchie or not, because technically, are they some of my favorite authors? Yes, but I have only read 2 of their series. I have not read, I know they have like some standalones, and I know they have like other series. They've written so many books, and I've only read the Addicted series and like half of the Like Us series. So I'm like, do I want to include them? But you know what? I am anyways, because this is my video and I can do what I want. So Addicted to You was the first book that I read. I did an entire Addicted/Calorie Sisters series reading vlog, and Addicted to You was where it all started. I loved this book right off the bat. I was obsessed with Lily and Lo, and this one is a friends to lovers fake dating romance between Lily and Lo. So Lily is addicted to sex and Lo is addicted to alcohol, and they kind of use each other in their friendship as a cover-up, and it's really not healthy, but you just see how much they love and care for one another. I just love these two. I love this entire series with my whole entire heart and soul. It is just a forever favorite of mine. So this one was where I kicked it all off. However, my favorite is Kiss the Sky, and this one is Rose and Connor. So Rose is the older sister of Lily, and Connor, so this one is like academic rivals to lovers, and truly like kind of like Black Cat energy. I wouldn't call Connor like golden retriever, because he's not just like, he doesn't have that like classic golden retriever vibe, but in comparison to Rose, he's definitely like he dulls her sharp thorns a little bit, I guess I would say. I love the two of them. This one, they're like filming a documentary kind of, or like a reality TV show a little bit. These two, listen, their connection is unlike anything else. If you truly want the 2 most equally matched characters in terms of wit, banter, intelligence, everything, that is these two. They are on a completely level playing field with each other, and truly there is no one else in the entire world that either of these 2 characters could be with. They would be so bored and they would rip other people to shreds. They can only handle each other. It's incredible. I love it so much. It was my top book of 2022. Started with this one, a great start, but nothing can top Kiss the Sky. Rose and Connor remain on top forever and always for me. Then I have Miss Pam Godwin. So I don't know, I've read maybe 5 or 6 Pam Godwin books, but it all started with Dark Notes, which is a dark student-teacher age gap romance. So our heroine in this one, she is a very, very talented pianist, but she has a horrible home life, and kind of piano and music is her only shot at getting out, and her only shot at kind of having any sort of release and happiness. And Emmerich is a bit of like a tortured soul as well. And the moment that Ivory shows up in his class, he instantly is like, okay, what's this girl's story? He sees how talented she is, and they end up having a romance. And this one is my favorite also by Pam Godwin. Even though I love Sea of Ruin, that is a very, very, very close second in my opinion. Dark Notes just still can't be beaten. This one also has BDSM in it. I love the release that these 2 characters can give each other that truly no one else can, and just the depth of understanding that they have of each other, not only just in like life, but then through music. It's beautiful. I love it. As always, though, I will warn, there is a scene of animal violence in here that is the most traumatizing scene I think I've ever read in a book, and there's no trigger warning for it. It is towards the end of the book, and it has to do with a cat especially, which is like, it absolutely killed me. So I just always want to warn that whenever I talk about this book, if you are like me and that is a sensitive thing for you. But this still is forever and always my favorite Pam Godwin book. And last but not least, I have Elle Kennedy. So The Deal is one of the other first indie romances I ever remember reading years ago. This one is a college hockey romance between 2 people. Garrett is like a star hockey player, and Hannah is in one of his classes and is doing really well, and she ends up being his tutor, and they kind of have like a mutually beneficial arrangement with that. And then it definitely has like friends to lovers vibes. Listen, I have reread this book 3 times. It still stands up. Honestly, I could argue that this one even might be my favorite, but I do think that my favorite though is The Mistake, which is book 2. This one, they're interconnected standalones. Logan is also a hockey player at Briar U, and he ends up meeting Grace one day kind of by chance. They hit it off, but then he ends up screwing up, and it does turn into a second chance. The groveling in this one is top tier. Listen, John Logan, forever and always on top. One of my favorite men. Again, my type. One of my types. I love him. I love the 2 of them. I love this romance so much. Again, I've reread this book 3 times. It still stands up to me. Yeah, forever and always a favorite. Yeah, okay. that is that. Like I said, there are so many other authors that I could, like, even looking at my shelves, there's still so many other authors that I could have included, but I really wanted to do ones that I have read like a lot of their backlist, or even in some cases, like I've read all of their backlist. So anyways, that is it for today's video. I literally have no idea what I'm going to be doing the rest of the week. Normally I have like my kind of schedule planned, but I don't know. I don't think I actually have anything written down for Friday's video. So we'll both be surprised, I guess, whenever I get that up. But yeah, that is it for today's video, and I will see you when I see you.